Oh, I can recognize.
Good.
Not that one.
No, not that one.
That one.
Okay, guys, we're live.
So two.
50%.
And we're live. Oh, I can recognize.
For having us, and I think this all stemmed from your last event back in the fall, if my memory's working correctly, and there was some correspondence that was sent out in regards to the tents. Is really the main issue with your for having us, and I think this all stemmed from your last event back in the fall, if my memory's working correctly, and there was some correspondence that was sent out in regards.
Sorry.
And so there was some correspondence sent, and it was to a little more complicated than it needed to be. So I've had it revised, and where we're coming from is you have a main street downtown. It's a historic downtown, and when you put, although the code says it talks about a certain size tent, right, and that's where the confusion was. I'm looking at the aggregated total down the street when you put the tents. And so there's flame spread rates. The clothes that we're wearing today, so when it comes in contact with open flame or sparks, it minimizes it, it won't go poof. So what we're asking for is, in the correspondence is, that you send out, and I've created a template that you can send to your vendors when they register. It says, look, your tents have to have the flame spreading S109 and the NFPA rating, and we'll also accept the California, because California is way more stringent than any other parts of the world. So getting a little technical, but it'll be a document that when they sign up, that they're well aware that this is what they need to do. And it talks about commercial cooking, because now we're going to get into the commercial cooking. So you got open flames, barbecues, and if there's an event, but that we're saying, look, if you can try to find food vendors that have these, I'm going to use the term chip trucks, right, or trailers with the suppression systems, much like the fair. We went through this with the fair many, many moons ago when I first came to the community here, and we've made progress there in having those regulations established. So I looked at last year as sort of a learning thing, we take ownership at the fire department for the poor wording of the correspondence that was sent. Because to a lay person, what does this mean? What do you want? So we've drilled down, what we'd like is they have to have the flame spread rating, the S109, it'll be in the documents, you don't have to remember, and then you can give it to your vendors. Because in a global market, what happens is people can buy tents that don't meet this rating, okay? And what I'm trying to prevent, again, back to the main street, the aggregated total, one catches fire. We've got a wind tunnel down through there. It's very windy down the main street. Poof, now we've got a historic village that's on fire with an event that nobody really wanted. So that's where we're really coming from. If there's any questions, be happy to answer them. I think we've got your campfire thing for Christmas in the village. Then the fire department will do that. There is one item in here. I don't suspect that your group has fire extinguishers. So while your businesses may have them, what I don't want is them taking them out of the building for these events. So usually the fire department has been gracious enough to invite us to do public education, which is a great thing for us. So we appreciate that. I'm going to tell them to bring a couple of fire extinguishers with them too. And I'm going to take that out of the letter when I reviewed it yesterday. So.
Okay. Just for clarification, and you and I were talking about this before, Bill.
Yeah.
Regardless if there are any barbecues on the street, if we have an event that, like historically, the only, going back a couple of 5 years, the only barbecue that was on the street would have been the Lions Club. But regardless of whether there's any barbecues or open flames, the tents still have to meet the regulations.
Correct.
Okay, and on our vendor application form, it's about 26 pages of stuff to read. Bridget, I'm not sure if it was Bridget or it was who
Set up
set
the vendor
that up.
form, yeah.
So they actually did have to see when they sign up,
Yeah.
they have to read those regulations. But I don't think anyone actually does because they don't understand that it applies to them. They think it applies to them if they've got something that's got open flame involved. But if it's ladies' night and they're just selling handbags, they just get right by that and think, well, that's not us. But
It's a nerd practice, and that's the flame spread ratings. Again, back to your clothes, it's a standard in Canada that every material, your couch, everything, right? And people, you're right, they don't think I'm not doing anything. I'm not playing with matches. I don't have an open hibachi going here. It doesn't apply.
Right.
And again, in some respects, I feel bad for the consumer because people are buying these tents. We do find them, like when we go to the fair. They go, why can I buy it? Well, you ordered it on such and such a website and it came from, another country and it slipped through, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a lot of our vendors would probably not have, Christmas in the Village, did the fire department check the vendors that were there? There were not that many. I think there were.
I think Mike did go around
Yeah.
and check them and
Yeah, that's right. It was Mike there.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
he find?
I believe so. So
Yeah.
I think that's what's prompted this discussion,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so we used last year sort of as an education.
Yeah.
We're gonna take the ownership about the unclear messaging. But now I'm hopefully back to yours. We're trying to educate the public and with your help. And this document that we're giving to you in the application form, they can clearly acknowledge that they've gotten this. And then when they're coming to the village.
Sorry, Chief, I don't mean to interrupt you there,
No.
but I mean, is there any easy way that we can make this for the vendors? Like, can we say, look, if you purchased your tent from vendors X, Y, and Z, you're most likely okay, but if you've ordered it on Amazon or whatever, please double check that the rating is there. Like, cause if you just put the regulations, they're just gonna go, yeah, and click it. But if you force them, especially like the next event, right? Because obviously there were tents there from the last event that weren't meeting the criteria. This event coming up, like, I think we kind of have to emphasize that regulation and have the vendors really check, not just glance over it.
And I appreciate your point regarding, vendors, Home Depot, Canadian Tire, whatever. But the problem is sometimes the buyers are buying things and there's tents that go in there and it says for residential use only.
Well,
And-
but that could be part of it too. It's saying,
Yeah.
a commercial tent versus a residential tent.
Is there a
Like
tag
just
that they can
something.
look at? Like, is there a tag on them?
That's what
Yeah.
Mike's checking.
So
the
maybe,
tag.
yeah, so maybe when we
It's
put
right
on the
here.
form,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's in the
that's-
letter,
that's
yeah,
perfect.
and we
That's one more
emphasize.
thing.
Clear as day.
Yeah,
But I think we just, with the vendor form, I think,
Yeah.
I think we just have to make an emphasis on it for the next little while.
Yeah.
right? So that
Yeah.
people really get into the habit of knowing for real if their tent meets it or not.
correct.
Yeah, and I think what Chief Belfer had asked is that we include an acknowledgement checkbox that on the vendor form that, okay, and we can spell it out there, we can
That's
say.
bureaucracy, like we all check boxes.
Yeah,
Like,
but
I've installed-
I accept cookies.
I install a million software, with never reading it software, right? Like we do it, but we gotta do something to make it more prominent and on this.
Very
on the site.
plain language, what does your tent have to have? Yeah,
Maybe it's a separate submission to them, so when they register, then we go through and send a separate email to them and saying.
yeah,
But I think we
Yeah.
even need to go deeper and say, and I haven't read your letter, so I apologize, but if we throw in there, like, your tent will be inspected.
Yeah,
If you do
yeah.
not meet this, you will be
So they
forced.
know it's
We can add
serious.
yeah,
I'll add that, that's not in there, this was just a draft, I didn't circulate it because I want
Yeah.
to talk about the fire
Yeah.
extinguishers.
Mhm.
I'm taking that out.
I will try.
Yeah,
so inviting the fire department to every event would be a great idea. And you can accommodate us in that,
we appreciate the invite because
Yeah.
part of our mandate is to do public
Yeah.
education. Council has set clear directions in their levels of service.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we're trying to augment and educate the public. So these are, I see it as a very good fit. And it also works out good of delving into labor relations, but our association with the roll call, and it helps them and we all work together.
I'm hereby inviting you to the
Yeah.
which is a Lions event, but it's the next event that we acknowledge as a BIA for our downtown.
The only caveat that I'm gonna put to it is we're gonna endeavor to be at them, but again, we rely on volunteers, so it's based on their schedules and if we have people that sign up.
Oh geez, I know you love fishing.
Yeah, I know. I do.
So I'll send you an email with the date.
Yes, but
Alright.
and Bridget will have the dates, that's the beauty.
Yeah,
And back to the road closures, it leads into a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
These are great, we take those and those internal things and then we plunk them into our work plans.
okay. So, the question's gone. I had another question and it left my brain.
I have a question about the open flame. So if someone were to have